Then we'd ask questions, walk around
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Paulding County Board of Commissioners August 12, 2014 work session. We'll welcome all our invited guests and elected officials. I see Mayor Debbie. Any other elected officials? Hi, Sheriff Gary Gullich. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Call the meeting to order and remind you to turn off all cell phones, Nextels, and pagers, as it does interrupt our production. Today, for our invocation and pledge, we have Pastor Cord Franklin with Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church. Would you stand with me if you're able?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come in your presence this morning to say thank you. Lord, we thank you that we live in a country where we can come together, Heavenly Father, and here have our voices heard. And Lord, we thank you right now for our commissioners, dear God. We pray that you would give them the same wisdom that you gave your servant Solomon as they go forth, Lord, to execute the duties and responsibilities, Lord, that they would help guide and lead Paulding County in a forward motion, dear God. And Lord, we thank you for all of the citizens that have gathered here today, Lord. We pray that you would bind us in unity, Heavenly Father, that whatever we say, Heavenly Father, when we don't agree, Lord, we would do it in such a way that all of us will be reminded that we still serve you. And Lord, we thank you for all of our law enforcement that have gathered here today. We thank you for all of our first responders, dear God. Continue to protect them, Heavenly Father. Lord, let us be ever mindful of all of our active duty military, dear God. For those that have served so gallantly upon the battlefield. Lord, let us never forget our veterans, Heavenly Father, who have made sacrifices that most of us will never ever know. Let us ever keep them before our presence, Heavenly Father, as we go throughout our daily lives, that as we strive for a better Paulding County, that we will never forget what you have done for us. So Lord, as we go throughout the rest of this meeting, dear God, just allow us, Lord, in unity, to execute that which you will have us to do. That when it's all said and done, generations from now, we look back on this day and say what a great job they did in that commission's meeting. And Lord, we give you all the glory and all the praise to your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. 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 Let us say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Citizens wishing to speak. Lynn Baldini is asked to speak today as we start to talk about items on the agenda. Under announcements, the Lamar Hunton 11th Annual Memorial Ride to benefit Georgia Sheriff's Youth Association. Sheriff Gullich, do you want to come forward and talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, this ride, we named it in honor of Lamar Hunton, used to be our jail administrator that we lost. This is the 11th annual one. It's going to be on September the 13th. Registration begins at 8:30 at the Senior Center across from the jail. Kickstands up at 10 o'clock. All the proceeds from it goes to support the Georgia Sheriff's Youth Office. It's a good ride. We usually have about 100 riders. That's police escorted, and I don't know where we're going yet, but we'll find a good route and try to stay out of the road.
You got any idea of those 11 years how much money you've raised?
I know. I wish if I knew about it beforehand, I can get it for you. But it usually does real well. It's not real expensive ride. It's like $35 for a bike. And like I said, we sell T-shirts, and we usually give the T-shirts to everybody that comes and rides. And we have a dinner. We go somewhere to eat lunch, and then break up from there, and everybody's on their own. It's always a good time. We try to raise some of the kids from youth homes down so everybody can see where their money's going. Last year we rode to the youth homes themselves, so everybody had a good time there.
That's it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I would like to have Michael Justice, if he'd come forward and talk about an event coming up this weekend out in our park.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
I should point out to you that Pastor Franklin is also an employee of the county. He's worked with us for a number of years in Parks and Recreation and Mountain Park. So we're certainly glad to have him as a member of our staff. Very positive influence. This coming Saturday night, August 16th, out here, New Veterans Park, our first family movie night event that we'll hold here. The activities will begin about 7 o'clock. The movie probably won't start till 8:45 or 9 when it gets good and dark. Leave your pets and your alcohol at home. Bring your blankets, your chairs, and enjoy an evening with us.
It's supposed to be pretty weather too, so.
Rio 2 is the movie.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. This time I'd like to invite Dee Kionis and Devin Seaball with the Metro Atlanta Ambulance Service, talking about what all you're doing with Metro. And I think I saw the Kennesaw Mayor. Art man. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, guests. It's an honor to be here before you today, and we'll just give you a quick overview of what we've done here at Metro Atlanta as your new ambulance provider. There's some fast facts. On the 21st of December, we took over 911 for the ambulance service. We acquired Clark Ambulance Service, and we retained 100% of the employees through the transition. We currently have, with our current operation and the folks that we gained through Clark, over 150 residents or employees that live here in Paulding County, and we're very proud of that. Our ambulance service was the third ambulance service in the Southeast to be accredited by the Commission of Accreditation of Ambulance Services. That is one of the highest honors that a service can receive. It's a tedious amount of work. It shows that you do not only clinical, but also that you focus on other pieces of operational excellence, and they consider it the gold standard. So we're very happy to have that. And then just so you have an idea of some of the other things that we do, we also have advanced life support, hospital-to-hospital transports. We provide critical care transports, bariatric transports. We work with folks out of critical care air flight in Gwinnett, and we do air transports with them also on the fixed wing side. We're not affiliated with anybody on the rotor wing or the helicopters, but on the fixed wing we do several of the transports. And then we do special operations. We are contracted as the NDMS folks, so when there is an incident going on like Katrina or Rita and the patients are flown into Dobbins Air Force Base, Metro Ambulance is in charge of doing the logistics work, not only to transport the patients, but also to find facilities to house them, etc. We do this with the Cobb Douglas Health Department, and we're very proud of that. So that's essentially a few fast facts about us. But I want to talk about what we've done here in Paulding. And you probably noticed that the traditional ambulances have been changed. Our platform went to Mercedes after Ford decided that they would no longer be doing the E-Series. Everything we had up to that point was a Ford ambulance, and the diesel E-Series, the Cutaway, went away. And when that, we had to go out and basically do a search to find out what to replace it with. And we had our employees be a big part of that, and they had a lot of buy-in into it. And after we did a lot of reviewing, we found out that for performance, safety, and most importantly, the patient care in the back, is, you can imagine how important it is to be able to have a smooth, comfortable ride when you're performing a lot of the things that we do in the back of an ambulance. And the Mercedes Sprinter came out ahead. It had a very good report, so that was essentially one of the reasons we flipped over. We had no choice. But we've got a lot of benefits out of it. It's a green vehicle, it's clean diesel. It gets about 14 miles per gallon instead of 5, like our previous vehicles used to get. And the maintenance is much, much lower, so we're very happy with that. All our ambulances are fitted with ADL or GPS, however you want to call it, so we have a constant feed. We ping about every 3 to 4 seconds, so we know exactly where everything is at all times. We're able to perform a cookie trail, so if someone wants to know where's that ambulance been, we can actually backtrack it and find out where it's come from and what it's done that day. We've made some improvements also. We brought in, every ambulance here has the physio control for Medtronic's LifePak 15. That is considered the gold standard in EMS. It has every gadget you could possibly put on it, Bluetooth, etc. We're able to send EKGs via cellular wave to the hospital. So eventually, when the hospital here gets to the open heart criteria, which I hope one day they will soon, we'll be able to send EKGs from the field, not only to Wellstar, Kennestone, or Cobb, but also out here, and be able to eliminate a lot of the time when there's a STEMI event going on or any kind of cardiac call. The next piece we have is kind of it's very unique. We're only one of 3 services in the Southeast that have it. We were the only one in Georgia. We were the first in Georgia to have it. And it is a CPR device that also from Physio that does, as they call it, perfect CPR. And it can deliver, you set the rate on however many compressions per minute, and it'll perform it. So this is one of the things that we're looking at, what we're really pushing hard on is patient outcomes. It's great to get there fast, it's great to get you to the hospital, but we want you to leave the hospital in the best possible condition possible. So this device, which is new to the market, has really made an impact in our medical direction, which is under Emory Healthcare and the hospital system and university, is doing a white paper to show, once we get another year's worth of data, the improvements in the outcome of patients after they have gone through an episode where we've used the Lucas device to perform pneumatic CPR on the back of an ambulance. The last piece is a needle laryngoscope, which is basically with fiber optics that shows the trach going down the esophagus to be able to show if we've got a perfect insertion where we're doing ET tubes or anything that will enhance the survivability. So we're trying to stay out of a person's stomach, make sure we're in the right track. So anyway, with this, we are, to the best of my knowledge, you're the only county that, along with Cobb, that has all 3 components we're considered the gold standard in capital equipment patient care. We also added and improved upon the Zoll computer software that we have. We use the Zoll billing. It's all tied in together, so it's a very, very good piece of equipment to have, and it enhances our ability for reporting, which you'll see in a minute, what kind of reports we're able to pull out of this. Every ambulance also has drive cam, which is basically monitors the driving. It's a camera system that continuously rolls, and if there's an event, a sharp turn or break or an accident, it will show approximately 5 seconds before and after the accident, anywhere around the vehicle. So if anything occurs, we'll know exactly what happened and we can roll it back. And also it also works on the behavior of the medics that are driving, because they actually know that they're being reviewed. And it's done by an outside source. We don't do it internally, so there's no bias involved. And these folks review their driving, and every medic's given a report card, so we know where they stand every month, and it kind of closes our loop on the safety part of the driving and the CPY part. And last but not least, I'm happy to announce, last week we closed at 260 International Highway, our first new station, and it's about a 7,500 square foot building behind the hospital. And we're very pleased to have that, and we'll have our headquarters there, along with supplies, training, and a few other things, and we'll have, not the 24-hour ambulances running out of it, but the day units that will be running out of that station. We've put a lot of emphasis on training and education. We did a really, and I'm very pleased to tell you, with the employee orientation, we did a lot of testing, OSHA compliancy, which is something that if you don't stay on top of it, it will mount up and you'll end up being non-compliant, and you never know when you get a visit from somebody from the federal government. So it's always good to stay ahead. You saw the King Vision laryngoscope, you saw the compression systems that we did for all the training. Again, we bring OSHA up because it's becoming such a critical part of EMS operations, where you have to stay compliant at all times. We upgraded the EMS protocols with the Emory system. We also have a relationship with Wellstar. Dr. John Knox is our guy that's basically boots on the ground. He works out of Paulding here, And if there are any issues, John is the first one to jump on it to make sure that things are taken care of and with the right level of care. We've worked very heavily on patient documentation training, and you may ask, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, it is because it's the way that Medicare is going nowadays, and insurance companies, if our paperwork isn't done correctly, they're going to roll it back to the citizen. So it's very important that we do all our work right. And then on the customer service, we want to make sure that we're good with you with the level of patient care, but at the same time, we deliver optimum customer service. So those have been our pieces. We unfortunately have had a couple of disasters with the snow that we've had up here and some of the other things, but it's been handled real well. We're very pleased with working with the fire department chief. Your folks have just done an outstanding job. We're honored to be working with you side by side. I don't know really of any incident that with the snow or any of the other things that has gone on. We did lose one ambulance in an accident that were at the wrong place at the wrong time that got run into, but luckily there was nothing wrong. That's another piece of the Mercedes. It's a very safe vehicle. It's just a real tribute to the engineering that they've been able to perform. Some of our special operations, in case you see them around, we do a lot of special events around town. We'd be more than happy to do some of the, we're doing high school, but some of the other things you'll see is church events, charity events, any kind of festival that would be going on in either one of the cities. And we basically will do a new concept, which we started in Cobb, and I'm not sure how we are here in Paulding, but we call it a medic in a bag. A lot of the school systems were having issues raising funds because of ambulance expense, not just here in Paulding, but anywhere else in the city, having issues with just how much it costs. So we came up, we asked permission, well, if we had a paramedic with all the equipment, a paramedic, no vehicle, radios, etc., could they stabilize the patient and at that same time reduce the expense substantially? So we were able to bring the price down from over $400, which is the contracted rate, for example, in Cobb, I think in Fulton it's 5-something per game, down to under $100 per game. So it was the right thing to do. It was a win-win for everybody, and we're hoping that gets implemented out here too. I know you can't see it, and I'm sorry, but we track all the responses. As a matter of fact, I can't see it, so we track all the responses. And I mentioned earlier Zoll, and this is the results of Zoll. We're able to pull reports like this, and I'll read it to you real quickly. This data is from the 1st of January through July, and we have responded to 5,827 calls for service. Out of that, we have made patient interaction 5,173 times. We have had an average response time of 7.8 minutes. The cardiac arrest, this is a very interesting fact. We have responded on 41. Of those 41, we monitored how many times the Lucas device that you saw was utilized. It was 28 times. There are some factors that prevent us from using it from time to time, but overall the percentages are pretty good. We're able to use that for our reporting. We performed community services 19 times. We had 12 on-scene standbys. We had 8 police standbys, and we had 39 other events that we were with. Some of the interesting demographics that you'll see is that the average age for the yeah, you're right. We're going to break it down here. Well, the most popular transport that we have are accidents, automobile accidents, as you can imagine. The next being sick, the third being breathing problems, and bladder is falls. So those are the main 5 categories. I won't go over this whole thing with you, but it's a very interesting report as far as to see what kind of calls we go on. We also document the streets where things occur. We know that over 50% of the calls are to people 55 years of age and older. And of that 55%, 3,033 were female and 2,100 were male. So there's the breakdown, a little bit of the demographics of the age of the folks performing transport. And that is where the accidents occur. So we document on a map where accidents occur on the street. So it kind of gives you a reading, if you're able to utilize it, to modify the time it takes to change a red light or things of that nature. It's there, we can provide it. And it's very interesting for us because it enables us to decide where we put ambulances at what time of day, because we know based on this there's a history, there's a pattern of where accidents occur. So we're moving ambulances constantly around to meet this demand. And at the same time, by doing so, we reduce the amount of time, of course, it takes us to get there. So that's essentially where we are, and we're very happy with our partnership, of course, with Wellstar. And look forward to continuing our relationship with them. Any questions that I can answer?
Pete, thank you very much. I think that's done without any kind of county supplement, so.
Yes, there's no subsidy. We use nothing but user fees.
Pete, thanks for being here. I wanted to stay there. I want to know how much an ambulance fully configured costs.
Right now, it's running right around 170,000. That's what this Mercedes fully equipped were with all the equipment. It's about the same as when it was with the Ford. The Ford itself is more expensive vehicle per vehicle than the Mercedes, but because we have more equipment now in the Mercedes, the total price has gone up somewhat. The Lucas device, for example, those are around $13,000 a piece.
How many ambulances do we have in the county during the day and during the evenings? Roughly.
It doesn't really fluctuate too much. Right now, you have anywhere between 6 to 8. There are times when it gets very busy and we roll resources in from Cobb, and you may have as many as 10 or 11. Our goal is to start putting out, now that we have a station that we can utilize for deployment by the hospital, which makes things very well for us logistically. You're going to see a lot more of the 12-hour variety. We're still going to have them around the clock, but this will be a way to enhance the response and the performance that we deliver.
Good report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Martin, you and Devin, anyone want to add anything? Thank you. No bid awards, no reports from committees and departments, public participation on agenda items.
My name is Len Backlini. I live at 3 Indian Lake Court in Howard. And I'd like to bring up a point under new business discussion item 6 that the Cobb County Tax Commission is going to retain 3.5% of the fees for collecting school taxes. Now, we are spending millions of dollars on our airport, millions of dollars on industrial parks, millions of dollars in county improvements to bring about a change in the environment within Cobb County. Within Paulding County. Some statistics. Paulding County ranks number 59 of all the school systems within the state of Georgia. That is the lower 2/3. Of our high school graduates, by the age of 25, only 23% get a continuing education degree, where the state average is 29.8%. Paulding County lacks significantly behind our surrounding counties in technology advancements. I feel that the county taking extra money from the school system is taking away from the future of our county, and that the money that we will collect could be better used for our students than other purposes within the county. Thank you.
Next, we have the consent agenda item, discuss actions on 2 consent agenda items. Number 1, amend the June 24, 2014 board meeting minutes. There's nothing new that we're doing here. We're just adopting a change in the minutes because it was a typo. Change order for modification of slopes drainage structures within the runway 31 safety overrun project at the Paulin Northwest Atlanta Airport as submitted by Plateau Excavation in the amount of $136,182.93 to reflect the amount actually adopted by the Board of Commissioners. Change order for modification of slopes and drainage structures within the runway 31 safety overrun project at the Paulin Northwest Airport as submitted by Plateau Excavation in the amount of $176,856.60. Number 2, recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the revision of the alcohol beverage license and permit schedule from the effective date of August 12, 2014. Would you like to move either one of these 2 items to regular session?
I do have a question. On the alcohol license, there was, the only change was in the license where it combined the catering license. There was no fee changes or anything, correct?
That's correct. It was just merging the resident alcohol caterer license with the on-premise license, so there wasn't an increase in the fee. We just merged those licenses together.
Any other questions? No old business. Under new business, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-18 setting millage rates for the county capital.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you know, a few weeks ago we advertised our 5-year history, which for the first time last year we had a small increase in our digest. This year we did have an increase in our digest, and we have opted to roll the millage rate back. The 2013 rate was 8.22, and the 2014 rate will be 7, or is proposed at 7.267 mils. That is the amount to collect the same thing for the exact same amount for the assessments as the assessments were last year. We'll collect no more taxes for the property that was there. So unless you have any questions.
Okay. Number 3, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-20 setting millage rates for the county bond. I'm sorry. No, excuse me. Number 2, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-19 setting millage rates for the fire district.
Same thing. We are proposing that we leave the millage rate alone because our fire department continues to grow. So our millage rate for 2013 was 3.1 mils, and our millage rate for 2014 will be 3.1 mils according to this resolution.
Any discussion? Okay.
That was that particular, the fire tax was one of the voters. I just want to make a note, the voters did vote on that to go anywhere from 2 to 5 mils in order to fund and support and grow our fire department.
That's correct.
Number 3, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-20 setting millage rates for the county bond.
The county bond millage rate is set in 2013 at 2.2 mils, and we're proposing the exact same millage rate that it will generate approximately $6.5 million to pay the debt that currently exists within the county.
Any questions? Number 4, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-21 setting millage rates for the Paulding County School District.
As you know, the Board of Commissioners, you are the tax. You do establish the taxes for the county, so the school board actually goes through their own public hearings, and then they request what the millage rate should be to you. We've received a letter, and they're leaving their millage rate the same. It was 18.879 mils in 2013, and they're requesting 18.879 mills again in 2014.
Discussion. Okay, number 5, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-22, setting millage rates for the state of Georgia.
The state of Georgia is reducing their millage rate by 0.05 of a mill each year to get to 0. So in 2013, it was 0.15 mills. In 2014, it is 0.1 mills. That's requested by state law. Like next year, it'll be 0.05, and then it'll go to 0.
Any discussion? Number 6, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-23, authorizing the tax commission to retain a 2.5% fee for collecting school tax.
As you know, the tax commissioner does send out tax notices. This cost goes to offset some costs in our tax assessor's office, as well as the collections in the tax commissioner's office. And we've collected 2.5% in the past. And so this is just a continuing the same process.
And this is a common practice in most areas, because again, it pays for the function of the tax commission.
That's correct.
And
And it is
the
less
assessor's
expensive
office.
for them to be able, they couldn't do their own. So it makes more sense to include them. And it's easier for the citizens as well to get one bill instead of a bill from each entity.
Any other questions? Number 7, discuss action to adopt a budget for the fiscal year 2015.
As you know, at the last meeting, we had a public hearing regarding the budget. And since that time, we've made a few changes, and I'll go over a few of those with you. The library budget was reduced by $33,000 because we did receive a grant, so there will be $120,000 in books purchased for the 4 libraries. The airport budget, it was mentioned that we had exceeded the budget in 2014, so that amount was increased by $100,000. The sheriff's budget, the school board agreed to reinstate 4 officers within the school system's budget, so they'll be paying for 4 additional officers to be at those schools for 9 months of the year, which will allow us to hire 3 additional officers.
The
And
difference in the 3 and 4, they only pay 9 months out of the year.
That's
and
correct,
why
yeah.
He don't have enough money to hire actual 3.
That's correct. That's correct. And the cost and the revenue for those are expected to balance out. The animal control budget, it was increased by $123,000. This increase came as a result of staff's recommendations to enhance the spay-neuter program and to increase the adoption. What we hope to do, we hope to start this process and see how it goes, and for the different for all of the changes that have been recommended. The marshals, there was a question as to whether or not they should have 3 positions or 2. They will only have 2. It will be for courthouse security here in this building, or for admin security. The 3rd, we did not remove the funding because those 2 positions are requiring some additional, requiring some additional time, as well as some of those funds will be used in the animal control budget to be able to better enhance that project. Does that make sense? And in the non-departmental, we reduced the other professional fees to an amount that is expected. And the Richland Creek Reservoir, we reduced that by $50,000. Those are in anticipation of us receiving a permit. And then we will, as you know, we've been awarded GFA loans, and we will begin construction, which will be funding of a different source rather than this general fund. Revenues, I've gone back through. Those are sometimes difficult because you have fines and fees that are coming from the source. You have charges for services, and those vary from year to year. But I went back through what we actually finished 2014 with and increased some of our revenues, because I don't think that they'll be reduced, that they'll come down any. I think those will be continued. So those are basically the changes that we have incorporated into this budget. In the back, I added an additional section of notes that was just for reference only. We're not really taking action on these, but it was requested at the public hearing, which is the IBA's budget. It's a draft budget, it's not approved. It's not balanced on this sheet, it's just to give an idea of where the $275,000 of our contribution goes. And then we have the water sewer system budget request, which is for additional personnel and for the equipment. The water sewer system is a little bit different because they're an enterprise system and it's a flexible budget, so if they don't have the revenues, they don't generate the revenues, they can't incur the expense. We have to balance that budget as well. They have to show an income of greater than 110% of their debt amount to be able to make these purchases or add this additional
Of their
staff.
debt payments.
Of their debt payments, annual debt payments. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that since the last meeting, as you know, the airport bonds did close. We did receive those funds. So I do have, we have been reimbursed from the airport authority for the expenses incurred in that contract, which I had presented to you an assumption that I would not have those funds for the end of the year, but it will be a receivable, and because we received it August, the check was dated August 1st. You will end the year, we should end the year, and we're still going through this process, but we should end the year without using fund balance in 2014. And we had originally budgeted a 1.9 use of fund balance, and then I presented to you over the past couple of months that we would probably use $2 million worth of fund balance. And now I can tell you, due to this reimbursement and some other things that have come in, it looks like we'll break even. So give or take a little bit, but we should end the year. So it makes me feel better about using as much of our fund balance, which has been a topic of discussion through this process. We're using $3.7 million of fund balance, which is still a lot. Can't do that year to year, but it does make me feel better to know. Just for a point of reference, 2013 we ended the year at $28 million in fund balance, and which works out to be about 47% of our expenses. And we will, after we use this, we'll go down to about 41% is what we use it. What we should have, if everything goes according to the budget, in 2015 we'll end the year at 41%. So it helps my feelings, and I thought it would be interesting to you to have that information.
We try to make sure that we have on hand a rainy day fund of 25%.
That is the bare minimum.
And we have kept 33, but now we will, in year, you said at 41.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mike, you want to add anything to what Tabitha's?
I guess just the only thing I would add is just to clarify, I walked through this with Tabitha. So when your budget, Mr. Chairman, was prepared and released to the public on June 1st, the assumption in that budget was that there would be $26 million of available fund balance. Now there will be $28 million worth of available fund balance. So if you move forward with the budget that you have today that's now presented to the full board with these changes that Tabitha's discussed, you'll be starting that budget $2 million ahead of where you thought you were going to be starting it, which, as the point you made there, is if your budget, if you use all of the fund balance that you propose to use, you will end the year with about $24.3 million of fund balance, or 41%, well in excess of not only the minimum, but the recommended as well.
Any questions?
Would like to say that although there's maybe things in the budget we don't all agree with, I would like to thank Mike and Tabitha for their work, the department heads, because you worked hard, went back and forth. And I sent them both an email this week to express that. And, so although we may not always agree on where everything's being spent, I know the efforts that you guys have worked hard. Mike, I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the presentation that you gave 3 weeks ago. Had quite a few citizens that complimented on that. And so I'd like to thank you for that, Tabitha, for your efforts, because I know you're the backbone behind that. And just to let you know that I appreciate that. There was one other thing. Were we going on to the next one? Okay. The only question that I had over everything that you discussed, and I don't want it to be a hardcore discussion, but raising that $100,000 on the airport budget, that was kind of Mr. Graham's thing, because we've all known that what we spent this year, we do next year, that what we were budgeting was not going to be enough for it. But I think the other part of his question was, if that went over, whether or not we were going to continue to fund that out of general fund. And so I had never gotten a clear answer on that. Are we giving them that $400,000 and then that's going to be it? Or are we just giving them the $400,000 and if they need more, we're going to do more?
To clarify what my statement was and what's here, there are two different things. I did recognize that, you know that's not enough. You got to have at least another 100. But what I proposed was to eliminate the airport department and fund the airport authority just like you fund the IBA. But what you have in this budget is you're keeping the airport authority and you're funding them like any other department. So, anything above your budget, you still got to approve as long as it's below $50,000. So no, it's not, what's here is not exactly what I proposed.
Okay.
I guess, if I had answered that, bearing any unforeseen circumstances, we certainly don't have a crystal ball to see, but hopefully that is the budget.
I guess my only comment would be, and I don't at all mean this to be negative, if they don't occur having that extra expense and it's not needed, then we've just given the airport that much more money.
No, this is a department. This is not like the IBA. You don't write them a check. This is a department of the county, just like DOT is a department of the county, and we control those expenses. You're not writing a check to the airport department for this. We're still maintaining a department. Airport director actually, or the department head of the airport authority actually operates the airport and actually answers and works for the airport authority office. I mean, it's keeping it all the same. You just increased your internal department budget.
But that money can be used for whatever they choose to use for in their budget, I assume.
No, it's Tommy said, it's the same as any other department in the county, whether it's animal control or libraries. The budget itself is a guide. It's what our anticipated expenses are. But if their expenses are $380,000, then $20,000 simply returns to the general fund. If their expenses are $500,000, it's because y'all voted to give them another $100,000 some point during the year to fund some project. So the $400,000 is simply a budget, just like DOT or any other budget. So if their expenses go over, y'all have a hand in that because 3 of y'all said it should.
I got to brag on the sheriff. He's returned money to us, I believe, every year.
Yeah, same as the sheriff's budget. The dollars that he gets at the end of the year, if he hasn't expended those dollars, those funds are simply returned back to the general fund.
Number 8, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-24, amending a moratorium on the acceptance of rezoning applications for all sewer developments within the Sweetwater drainage basin. And
Good morning.
Good morning.
This was an agenda item that we discussed at the last commission meeting. This deals with a moratorium that was adopted in February of 2007 that limited any residential rezoning requests requiring sewer for properties within unincorporated Paulding County within the Sweetwater Drainage Basin. That was put in place, like I mentioned, in 2007 for 12 months or until both Paulding County and Cobb County have completed the necessary engineering for a Cobb-Paulding sewer line. The 12 months has definitely passed, and as we stand right now, there are no engineering or acquisition of easements on the Paulding County side. However, the county owns and operates the Sweetwater Creek Wastewater Reclamation Facility, which has a designated service area that has ample capacity to serve that area. So based on the sufficient supply of capacity, it's recommended to change that moratorium to exclude the area served by the Sweetwater Creek Wastewater Reclamation Facility.
I think that plant currently is at operating at 10 or 15% of capacity.
10%.
10%. In looking at your map, is there a portion of, this is where the lines get funny, I guess that's Carroll County, is there a portion that we service that, or can service similar to what we do in the north end of the county that we service in Carroll County?
We don't presently have any sort of intergovernmental agreement that would allow that, but in terms of the topography out there, the answer
So that's what these
is
little lines at the bottom, it shows an area that would fall into that.
I'm not sure what those lines are for. I think those are actually streets or unimproved streets. But to answer your question, yes, there is some land area of Carroll that could reach this plant, but we don't presently have any sort of agreement to allow it.
Any other discussion? Number 9, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-25, identifying real property proposed for conveyance to the state for the purpose of constructing a new customer service center of the Georgia Department of Driver Safety, Chuck Lane.
Commissioners, I spoke with Mr. Wren. I'll handle just very briefly on this resolution. As y'all are aware, there's going to be a DDS Customer Service Center in Paulding that we brought up on previous agendas. All this resolution does is basically designate with a legal description the acreage that is going to be conveyed to the state for the purposes of the Customer Service Center. The resolution indicates that we're going to give it to the state. However, if the state fails to operate the facility or fails to construct it, then we, by deed, will have a first right of refusal to go back and reacquire the property to the county. The only issue that will come up requiring the county to pay any money for that is in the event that the state has actually made any improvements to the property. The purchase price would be the fair market value of those improvements. The resolution also has a provision in it that states that the county will provide public road access to the facility. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have, or Mr. Wren may.
So I know that, of course, the public, we got to improve the street, and then we're actually doing the site. So if for some reason they were to cease having a DDS there, we would only, according to the deed, we wouldn't have to pay them back for a pad-ready site. We just, or any of the improvements we did, providing sewer to it or anything. It's strictly what they spent on the facility.
Correct. Okay. The idea is being, we're doing that, we get it back, we shouldn't have to pay for that.
Again, I can't tell you the number of hours that Chuck Rand's worked on this. Chuck, thank you for a great amount of work on this, and of course the Georgia State Patrol unit going in the water system. We were the largest populated county without a driver services, so I know Charlie Watts and Howard Maxwell worked very hard to make this happen, so I'm extremely happy about it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add, just for clarification for the public, back in the day when a lot of us got our driver's licenses, initially, we got them from what we all refer to as the State Patrol. The State Patrol used to, they drive trooper cars, and they used to be in the business of issuing driver's licenses. That is no longer the case. There are two separate state government departments that do that. The Department of Public Safety operates the State Patrol. We'll be getting a State Patrol post over at the water system building. The Department of Driver Services, they issue driver's licenses. They will be building the facility here on this campus solely for the purpose of driver's license related issues. Two separate departments, they've split up what used to be combined.
Number 10, discuss action to adopt resolution 14-26, authorizing a voter referendum on whether to allow package sales on Sunday by retailers of packaged malt beverages. And Mike, you want to make a comment on this?
I will, and county attorney may want to chime in on this. I guess first, let me start by reading what the ballot question would actually say. The ballot question will read, shall the governing authority of Paulding County be authorized to permit and regulate packaged sales by retailers of malt beverages and wine on Sundays between the hours of 12:30 and 11:30 p.m. So that, and your option is to vote yes or vote no. That's presented. So this is what the ballot question would say. What is before you is not whether or not you agree that malt beverage package sales ought to occur. It's whether or not you agree that the public ought to have the option to decide for themselves. So we discussed this about 2 years ago. It is nearly 2 years ago this month. That was, the Board of Commissioners voted to allow that to go forward on a special election which occurred on March 19th of 2013. Just slightly over 2% of the registered voters turned out for that vote. It was turned down. I'm satisfied you've had as many calls as I had about the interest in having that question brought back up during a general election. As you know, we have a general election that's scheduled for Tuesday, November 4th of this year. There's no cost associated with placing this on the ballot, should you choose to do so.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify one item, when we deal with alcohol at the state or county level, we deal with really 3 kinds of alcohol. We deal with beer, wine, and distilled spirits. This is only for wine and beer. This does not cover distilled spirits. Paulding County is not a county that presently at the time can legally be in the business of regulating distilled spirits. They're not sold in the county. So this is beer and wine only.
Any other discussion? Number 11, discuss an enhanced security upgrade project for the Silver Common Trail with a not-to-exceed project budget of $275,000 using recreational splosh funds. Mike, I believe it was a group of us that met, you, Michael Justice from Parks and Recreation, Sheriff Gullidge, Quinn, is it Lieutenant? Corporal Quinn, who is primarily responsible for the Silver Common Trail. We've been looking at this for quite a while to make upgrades to digitize those cameras and get a better image of that park. I called Carolyn Delamont, and there's several million people that visit the Silver Common Trail and are visitors to Paulding every year. So I think we need to do as much as we can to bring security up. We had a lady that was attacked. We have some leads. The Sheriff's Department is working on those leads, but if we can do more to bring safety to this area, this is something that you can use splosh funds for. Also, in the meeting, who else do we have that was in attendance?
Our IT director, Will Lyons, was present, Chuck Graham was present, and then when we went out in the field, Deputy Reno joined us, who was also one of the patrol officers for the trail.
You want to talk about exactly?
Certainly. What we did is after we initially met, we laid out the 18-mile section of the trail and evaluated where utilities are present, particularly fiber was the most important, and secondary to that was the power. And there was a 7-mile section of trail which also coincided with the most heavily used section of trail. We currently have 3 trailheads that are equipped with cameras today. We want to increase the camera locations from 3 locations to 21 locations. And we want to upgrade the cameras that are there to high-resolution digital, and we're going to put about 47 of them out on the trail. This is all part of what we refer to as phase one. The trail itself is about 18 miles through Paulding County, and this will take care of about 7 miles of it. We want to do this quickly. We'd like to have this operational in the next 60 days. To accomplish that, we've prepared a budget. Again, as the chairman pointed out, these are recreational SPLOST dollars that will be used to enhance the security on the trail. We're requesting an operational budget of $275,000 to implement phase one. Should that be approved, we'll come back to you for phase two. It is a rough budget, but we're looking phase two is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000. We'll know more when we do phase one and give you a better number, but phase two is several months down the road. Phase two would allow the installation of additional fiber along the trail, about 5 miles, 7 new camera locations total. So we're going to extend the phase one to the east 2 miles towards the Cobb County line, and to the west 3 miles towards Mount Albert Road. So that's kind of an overview of the entire project. The IT department has worked this week to prepare a drawing of what that's going to look like, and I would invite you at the end of this work session to come take a look at that. It's an aerial photo that specifically shows the locations. Those locations may change when we get out in the field. Again, some of that's going to be predicated on access to power. Chuck Rand, our community development, our government services director, is currently working with the power companies on cost and access for power to those cameras. The sheriff may have additional comments he would like to make on the project. I'll leave those to him.
This is for the cameras only. This does not include the additional smart cars, that kind of thing. This number is for cameras only.
That's correct. $275,000 is the camera hardware and installation to make those cameras operational.
Okay. Now, to get it up and going in 60 days, will you go through a normal bid process, and can you, I mean?
That's a very good question. Personally, I don't want to do that. I think that not that we don't want to have competitive bidding, but I hope that there is a route that would limit the amount of time, but also accomplish the competitive bidding process of that. I don't know how to answer that question yet. I can't give you a straight answer.
And I guess the other question is, will there be a I mean, let's just say XYZ company says, yeah, we'll put them all in for $275,000. Will there be a contract that you will need us to approve, or is this actually giving y'all the authority to do this?
What we would prefer is this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we would like for you to authorize the chairman to enter into a contract for up to $275,000 to keep this from having to come back. Now, phase two, we'll have a lot more time to work with, but phase one, we'd like to implement right away. We're still going to struggle with the bidding part of that. It may be that we end up having to bid it, but the idea is to reduce that time as much as possible.
I mean, you may do a request, a bid by invitation.
Correct.
Instead
That's
of
one
a
option.
posting.
That's one option. We've actually explored purchasing, speccing the hardware, the switches, and the cameras themselves, purchasing those, and then hiring out the labor and tasking them with installing the equipment that we purchased ourselves. So I just don't know yet.
I just want to make sure, how are you going to accomplish it in 60 days?
Are any of these cameras on state contract?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. The cameras that we're looking at are very similar to the ones that we placed in Veterans Park here at the government complex. So we've got some familiarity with them.
Mike, Sheriff, can you speak to how they're monitored, or if they are monitored?
Yeah. That's another unknown. They can be. We're able to pull up the cameras that are in Veterans Park today. So there's a way to log in from an iPad or a laptop and actually take a look at those cameras. You simply have to know which camera you want, and you can pull them up and monitor them. The initial thought was, let's have these cameras monitored in places where we have security in place, whether that's at 911 or the existing courthouse. The sheriff has his own ideas on where that's going to go. We fully support that. The capability is there to have them monitored. I don't believe, unless the sheriff is going to contradict me, that the idea is that they're going to be monitored 24 hours a day. That is not the goal of these cameras at all. But certainly the ability to monitor them exists.
Have we looked at maybe monitoring anything in the smart cards that you have?
That's what I told them when we started this. I said, we can get laptops and smart cards. The deputies is actually out there, can pull them up on their laptops, and they can back them up in. I mean, that's why we got them to come out there, because they know where we have trouble at. They can back away from those and use the cameras to be eyes down the trail. A lot of people think that don't use the trail thinks this is something new we're starting. We've been working that trail ever since I've been the sheriff. I've had 3 deputies assigned to that trail. It's probably the most patrolled road in the county. It's 18 miles of it. I have 3 deputies, and that's all they do is work that trail. I've got a lot of, I won't say criticisms, a lot of people giving me advice. You know, the cars are no good, you need to put bicycles out there. You know, the cars ain't any good, you need to get out there on golf carts. We have bicycles that we use some. But if you're at the Hiram Trailhead and there's a problem at the tunnel, and it's 18 miles away from you, and you're on a 14-mile-an-hour vehicle, you don't want to be over there waiting on us to get there. That's where I originally come up with this idea for the cars. Of course, you don't want to go flying down the trail, but with a car that's licensed, you can get out on 278, which runs parallel with the trail, and you can bypass all the people, and you don't have to run them off the road and make everybody mad at you, and get back on the trail where the problem is. The additional cars will help. We have 2 out there right now. I think the cameras will help. I don't know that you can say that once the cameras are up, it's going to be a safe place to be, but I think people are like kids. They act better when they know they're being watched. So as long as there's a chance, and it will not stop people from coming in from different places, but if they access the trail, even back to this lady, we could at least have a time frame of where she got on, where she went. We could also have a time frame of anybody else that was looking at. Did they come onto the trailheads? Did they come onto the chamber? Or did they come out of the trails out of the woods? I don't know. Some people's never been out there. There's all kinds of side trails coming out of these apartment complexes, out of trailer parks, out of the housing projects. There's trails coming out of subdivisions that's along the trail. There's all kind of places, and Mike Quinn works out there day in and day out, and that's why we took him with us. And he said, this is a place where we've worked a lot. This is a place where we've had a lot of trouble. And those places we've identified putting up some of these cameras. I told Mike I have no issue if they want to put the monitors in the courthouse. We have basically a mini jail in the basement of the courthouse. There's a deputy there as long as the courthouse is open. They can monitor, they can put them in our control room at the jail. It's manned 24/7. But the deputies in the cars, if they can pull them up on their laptops, I think it would be a grand thing for them to be out there to be able to see down the trail. No matter where they're sitting, they can skip all places down the trail and watch it. And I think you can identify problems before they start. You can identify people that don't naturally belong out there. If you go out there like we're dressed, you're going to get some funny looks. If you go out there in running shorts, or you go out there in biking clothes, nobody really pays you any attention. You know, they get on these cameras and they see somebody don't fit in, they can get to it pretty quick.
I know you've been asked this before, and I think I know the answer, but do you have any update on the investigation?
Nothing that I would talk about right now. There's a lot going on with it. We're chasing every lead we can get. We've got so much going on, it's probably not a public comment that I would make. We're chasing down everything we look at. Looking down every road there is. The bad part is right now nobody's seen anything, nobody heard anything, and that's where we're at. The media's driving a lot of people. Like I said, there's a lot of rides and benefits going on to make that money for this lady. I started a reward fund that if somebody would give us information leading to the arrest or prosecution of this person, that fund yesterday evening was about $23,000. So if anybody has any information regarding what happened on the trail, if they'll call 770-443-3015 and ask for any investigator there, we'll be glad to talk to you. We get inundated with tips, and of course you have to chase them all down, and it's just time consuming work.
We'll put that number on this video, but if somebody wanted to contribute to that fund, how do they go about doing that?
The Bank of North Georgia, off Metromont Road, I talked to the manager there, and she's set up an account. I talked to Jason before we done it. There's 3 different ways you can do it. There's a form when you come out. I had a lot of people, and I didn't understand why that they wanted to make donations to it, but they wanted to remain anonymous. And I thought, why would they do that? And the lady that called me, she said, well, I want to put some money in the account, but if something happens, I don't want anybody to come after me or my family for trying to help catch them. I said, okay, I understand it. So we set up a form. You can come in and make an anonymous donation. There's 3 boxes on it. If you want your money returned after, well, I think we set a 2-year deadline on it if nothing's been done with the money, or if law enforcement catches them without the help of this fund. if, like a business donation, they say, okay, if you do that, we want our money back. I have a form and I'll send you your money back as soon as it's over with. There's also a box on there you can check that I don't want my money back, I want this money to go used for security for the trail. We can buy stuff for the trail for added security. And I thought I'll give them another way to do it. It's our Cops for Kids program. If you don't want your money back, you can check that box, and whichever you prefer to do with the money, I'll either return it or put it in one of those two accounts.
Any questions?
One more thing, if you don't mind. I've had a lot of people ask me about the smart cars. Most people think it's a good idea. I took one myself and went out on the trail, and I interacted with the people out there to make sure that they didn't have an issue with it. I didn't want to go out there, and those people out there on that trail, they own that place. We bought a street and trail bike one time, and I myself went out there and rode it. I got stopped 3 times and got cussed out for riding a motorcycle on the trail until they figured out who I was, and I said, you know, we're trying to use this thing. They didn't like it. The smart cars, we went out there, you can ease right up behind people, they're quiet. Nobody really knows you're coming through, they don't bother anybody. Everybody out there on the trail are used to our cars. Mike was with me, I had 2 different bicycles come up and thank us for being out there. He said, I ride the trail from Cobb, called him and Polk all the time. He said, every time I come through here, I see your guys. A lot of people are saying that we shouldn't be buying the cars, we should be using like the little Kawasaki mules we used to have. They're about the same price, and we was wearing 2 of those mules out a year. As Tim Ashton, the fleet man, said, these things are not designed for what y'all are doing. We were running back and forth up down the trail, and top speed was like 14 miles an hour. So we bought the cars for about the same price, and Mike asked me, he said, well, how long are these cars going to last? I said, I don't know yet, we're still running. You know, everybody says, well, we're key, well, so-and-so can't get in. Me and Mike Jones got in one and rode around, and I told Mike, I said, you can get out on 4-lane, you can run 65 mile an hour. And he said, I don't want to go that fast in that car, so we're going down the road. And I said, Mike, I didn't think you want to go 65. And he's like, gee, this thing's pretty nice. Shoulders don't touch, there's plenty of room in them. We've got cameras in them, just like in police cars, there's lights on them. And they're cute to look at.
Unlike you.
Unlike me.
Yeah. Sheriff, I got a question about Ms. Waddell. Is she stable enough to be able to tell her story yet or testify?
I won't go to the doctor part. She hasn't told us her story yet.
Can I ask one thing, Mike? The $275,000, since we're so pushed to get this done, is that enough, or do you need more of a buffer?
I think that's okay. I think we can get it done with that. We added about a 15% contingency to what we thought the actual dollar amount would be based on our experience with installation of the Veterans Park. I appreciate that. But I think the 275 will get us. If we do bid this out and it comes in higher than that, I intend to move forward with $275,000 worth of stuff, and I will come back to you immediately and ask for additional financial assistance. But I think we'll be okay.
If y'all would allow me also, I'd like to thank Chuck Green and Mike Jones, Will Lyons. They spent a lot of time with us out there. I've never come to them with a problem that they don't drop what they're doing and come and help me. I appreciate y'all guys for that. It means a lot to me. It's always been that way, but I've never come with them with a problem that they don't instantly drop what they're doing and get in the middle of it. Great guys to work with, very knowledgeable, lots of experience. I'm proud to be co-workers with them.
And for recreational splashed funds, this capital expense, this is exactly usual.
Yes, sir, correct.
Another thing I'd like to say, if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna keep on talking. The 3 cameras we have out there, and it's not really anything to say about it at the time they was put up. They're analog cameras. We have people in here who's got a lot of business with cameras. Analog cameras are basically useless. You can see people go by, but if David Barnett come walking by the trail in the daytime, and you could look at the thing and say, well, it's a tall white guy. But you can't look at the film we've got in front and say, well, that's David Barnett. So these digital cameras will change that when you come by, so that's David Barnett wearing glasses. The digital cameras has improved technology so much. And I think it'll also give us eyes on the trail at night when we're having problems. We know where the problems are. We have a lot of people using the trail at night and they're not even supposed to be out there. So now from my home, I can get on the computer and look at these cameras. I think it'll be a great safety asset.
Because they go infrared.
Do what?
They're infrared cameras for night vision.
Yeah, they'll switch over when the lighting drops. They'll switch over to a black and white image, but the black and white image is incredibly sharp, so it doesn't take very much lighting in full darkness to be able to see what's going on out there.
And really, at night, the biggest thing we need to see is there's actually people moving on there where they're moving at, and we can intercept.
Any other questions?
Thank y'all for y'all supporting.
That's the conclusion of a regular business session. There's no executive session. We do have Bill Gursky wishing to speak. If you'll come to the lectern. Yeah, 5 minutes. And you're going to talk about Sunday alcohol sales.
Yes, Sunday alcohol sales.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before Mr. Gerson begins, previously I made a comment about this business item. I want to just clarify one thing before I get a phone call. Indicated that the county does not regulate distilled spirits. We don't regulate distilled spirits when it comes to package sales. We do regulate distilled spirits when it comes to liquor by the drink. Just want to make that clarification for someone called me and told me I was wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I was here recently. My name is Bill Gursky. My family owns and operates Crossroads Grocery in Paulding County for over 15 years. And thank you for allowing me to come back again. I came back today because today is a very special day. This afternoon, the commissioners will vote on whether they'll allow the agenda to have Sunday alcohol sales in November election. Half of what I was going to say, Mike Jones covered very well, so I'll be briefer than I was going to be. As he mentioned, we're not voting on whether we're going to have it or not, but we're voting on giving the residents an opportunity to voice their opinion, and that's all they want. I've talked to a lot of people in the county who merely want an opportunity to vote on whether they want it or not. I took the liberty to have a petition signed by over almost 800 people, in which they signed a petition not saying they want it, but they like the opportunity. As was mentioned by Mike, last year in the special election, 98.5% of the eligible voters didn't vote. There was 1,100 people that voted out of 81,000. And I have a petition of 800. Had I had a little bit more time, my petition probably would have exceeded the total number of people that voted on it last year. I think the board has two big opportunities here. One, to make people happy, and one, to possibly create revenue. Making people happy by giving them an opportunity. That's all they want, to vote on it. As far as revenue goes, every county that's surrounding Paulding County is allowing people to purchase these products on Sunday. All you merely be doing is allowing the same thing. This is a great opportunity to give something to the residents that not only costs you nothing, but also where you might increase your intake or your revenue. Listening to a lot of people speak in the last couple of meetings, everything that they're speaking of is associated with money, tax money needed. And today, I don't think I'd want to be a commissioner, because the commissioner's job is much more challenging than it was 20 years ago. People today, as you well know, are very demanding. They want more services, better services, but they don't want to pay more taxes. By allowing these sales, you will have the opportunity to create more revenue through these beverages as they're sold on a Sunday, create about 3% revenue to the county. If you put the math to it, it'll come out to thousands of dollars of additional revenue you'll have to work with that you didn't have before. In closing, I'd just like to say that we like to keep Paulding County sales and tax revenue here in the county where it belongs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the conclusion of our regular business session. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. We'll be back here at 2 o'clock.